Welcome to the Chuck Shoot Podcast. Thank you so much for listening or watching. I appreciate the views / listens. Quick shout out to the people on the YouTube channel since we've had a couple recent episodes there cracked 1,200 views. That's a lot for me, and that's not even including all the listens on the audio podcast formats like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So thank you for that. Anyways, my guest today is Nick Reese. He is the singer of the band Joyous Wolf. They're a modern rock band, and he doesn't like the term throwback. And I actually agree with him. I think they have much more of a complex sound to them than some of these other new rock bands. And Nick is he's so extremely talented, as is the whole band. They're definitely one to keep an eye on, and I'm definitely a fan, and I will be following them for a while. So I'm glad I was able to get Nick on the show before him and the band blow up, and then he gets too big to do my show. It was fun to talk to him. I love his direct honesty. It's just quite refreshing to talk to someone like that. I think you'll enjoy it too. Check it out. Welcome, Nick Reese, to the Chuck Shoot Podcast. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. Just, another day.
Another day. Are you pretty slowed down with the pandemic and all that stuff? You can't do shows, right?
Not quite. No. Things are starting to move a little bit more in that sector. I mean, especially for, groups my size, we're not selling stadiums out. So I don't think we'll be that delayed for much longer. I think you'll start seeing a lot more shows, in probably the next 30, 40 days. You'll start seeing things start to crop up. And I think by next year, you'll start to see not normal shows, but social distancing shows. I think you'll see a lot of that.
Have you seen those like bubble suit shows where people were in the bubble suits? Not
quite that level. I'm just talking about normal social distancing.
That would be nice. Yeah. I think it was the, I'm spacing on the name, but some band did that and everyone was wearing the bubble suits. Like, I think it was real. So I don't know.
No, it was real.
Oh, okay.
I know exactly. It was definitely real, but that wasn't, that's an extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. So yeah, let's talk about you and your background is interesting because I interview a lot of musicians and, a lot of them say the same influences. I haven't had too many people with the influences, the same ones that you've had. Like I interviewed the guy from Badfinger. I don't know if you know that band. It's like a 70s band. And he was really influenced by Elvis, but so are you. And like, it's just interesting because you're so young and your influences were like Elvis and Ray Charles and Johnny Cash and James Brown and all these like older guys. So how did that happen?
My parents' record collection. I mean, to a degree, because my parents, their generation was like, my dad's was, late 70s, early 80s, where he kind of peaked out, and my mom was around the same time. So like, there was a lot of like new wave, and which is a big part of my diet, like new wave music, like the music between like 1977 and 1987 is like, to me, is probably, to my opinion, is like one of the greatest, like top two greatest eras of music in my, like, at least in my opinion, because there's just so much happening there.
Definitely. Yeah. Cause there was like the 70s rock and then the new wave and the punk and then the hair metal and all that stuff. I love all that stuff.
All of the synth, the early synth stuff and early, like just a lot of cross pollination, a lot of crazy fusion jazz, a lot of, there's so much happening in that time frame that you could write a million books about it. But as far as the older stuff, like I was just drawn to it when I was a kid. I remember I was standing outside a record store when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. It was in a place called the Orange Circle, and they always had this RCA Victor dog sitting out at the front, little hound, that they have on the RCA Victor stuff. And they had this little dog that would sit out there, and I was playing with the dog, and the record player that was outside was playing a B.B. King record. And I just remember being transfixed with it. I didn't leave that area. Even when I was a little baby, I just listened, and I loved it. I just loved it, and I didn't know who it was. And I ended up on here in SoCal. We have a radio station called K Jazz, pretty pretty famous, institution. That member supported. It's just jazz all the time, but on the weekends they play blues hour. And live records and stuff, which is awesome. And I'm always listening to that. It's probably the radio station I listen to the most.
Yeah.
Since, from when I was a kid to now.
Yeah, you just have
Um,
such interesting influences. And then also, like, besides that, older, like the Johnny Cash and the James Brown, Otis Redding, like you said, Prince and Michael Jackson. And actually, that has a lot to do with your stage moves, which is also interesting for a rock band to hear that.
yeah, I mean, it's just all of this stuff, like the James Brown was what broke my entire like mind when I saw him. There was a thing they were doing, the Tammy Show. They had this documentary about something, and they actually showed it on TV when I was a kid. And I was watching it, and James Brown comes out, and he does his legendary um, performance, and I am not kidding you. I stopped. The world stopped as I watched this guy do something I'd never seen before. I'd never witnessed. I was young. I was probably 7 or 8,
Mm,
and I mean, that to me, everyone always talks about like Queen at Live Aid, and some of these other amazing, Hendrix at Woodstock,
mm.
you know, and all this stuff, being like the greatest performances ever, which
Sure.
they are. But to me, the greatest performance by anyone ever is probably James Brown on the Tammy Show. He played for like all of 16 minutes and absolutely devastated the young Rolling Stones who are going to follow. You
Wow.
watch their set, you can see the fear in their movements. You can see Mick Jagger trying to compensate and it just not working, you
Yeah.
know, as
That's
this guy just
funny.
came out and obliterated, you know. Um, yeah, James to me is the greatest performer of all time by
Wow.
far. All around showman. He could sing when he needed to sing. He could growl. He could scream. He could do anything. He's just like, oh my god, watching that. And I remember my mom said, it's like you instantly, when it was over, you stood up and you started sliding around on your socks. And it's
Wow.
there was something about, like, I always moved to music. I couldn't, you know, and it really just took it to a whole place because I was like, oh, I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like he revealed something.
Oh, that's really cool. And then later, it wasn't until later, you're about 13, 14, that you started listening to the more modern rock, like Rage Against the Machine and Alice in Chains and some of the
Yeah,
heavier stuff, right?
yeah, like I just didn't start. I kind of made my way through the decades. Like when I started getting into my
Okay.
own music when I started like looking at music myself, like 12. Around 12 is when I'm like, well, we got our first home computer, and I was like, what do I do with this thing? And I was like looking up Elvis songs and whatever, and it was kind of like songs that like my parents played that I like. I'm like, what else did this guy do? You know, Van Morrison and the Clash, and and I went back to, usually always went back to the old stuff, and I was like, oh, I can listen to all the BB King songs now, or I can
Yeah.
go on YouTube and look at performances. It's so cool.
That is a luxury you guys have. Our generation didn't have, like, there's albums that I would see and I was like, I wonder what that sounds like. You couldn't just go on the computer and look it up. It's
Yeah,
kind of cool though. Yeah. Wasn't it around this time too that the first day of sixth grade orientation? This is an important day in the history of the band. You met your
yeah,
drummer, Robert. I'm just
yeah.
trying to not get beat up in middle school. You're meeting musicians that your guys are going to form this worldwide band for. Like,
Oh, I don't you worry, dude. I got beat up plenty.
did you really?
The reason why this nose is so crooked, it's not just because of stage stuff. Um, oh yeah, no, plenty. I got my ass kicked a lot in middle school and high school.
You and I could have been friends if we were in middle school. I think we're both rockers and yeah,
I
outcasts.
I believe it. I mean, I've always been a weird cat. I never really fit the mold
Sure.
very much.
So
in my life.
how'd you meet Robert? Like, how did you guys click? Was it, were you wearing band shirts, or how did you guys get along?
No, well, see, the thing is, man, like this is long. Like I was a listener. I wasn't a musician. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I listened to a lot of music because my family just listens to a ridiculous amount of music. To this day, music is so important to my household that I grew up in. Um, so it was just kind of this thing where I want to say it. He and I were just two weird guys, weird
Okay.
kids, and it was literally by the chance of that our last names are right next to each other.
Oh, I didn't think about
And
that.
it was in our homeroom class, and he was sitting behind me, and he and I are both just awkward. And I turn and I look at him, and we look at each other, and we're like, and then we instantly turn away, don't say anything to each other. Uh, because it's like, it's the first time like all the local, all the elementary schools in our area would become a giant population at the middle school and the high school,
Sure, sure, yeah,
So it was like, oh, it's a chance to make new friends, to start anew. And he was just the first friend I made.
yeah.
Um, and he and I ended up sitting next to each other in orientation, and I told him like some really stupid stuff about whatever the hell I was thinking about as an 11-year-old,
Sure.
uh, and I don't know. I guess he was like, this guy's all right.
Okay.
And we were, been friends ever since.
So yeah, so that's how you met the drummer, and then you guys would actually end up going to different high schools, and then
Yeah.
just by chance you ended up meeting your guitarist Blake Allard at a
Yeah.
guitar center, and you started jamming on CCR's "Born on the Bayou," and you said that
Yeah.
you had like kind of an instant dynamic.
Yeah. We were just, I met him, and he was trying to tune this guitar. He was killing time. Uh, and he had this crazy hair. And I don't know. I just decided to like, I had brought my tuner from home,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad that I did, because I threw it to him, and he was able to tune up. And I asked him if he wanted to jam, and we jammed a little bit. I sang a little bit, and he liked the way that I sang, according to him. And I don't know, like we didn't see each other again for 6 months.
Okay.
He asked me if I needed like if I was in a band. I said, yeah. He's like, do you need a guitar player? And I was like, I mean, I might do something else sometime, but I mean, I'll call you, you
Okay.
know. And then
And
that band I was in ended up breaking up a couple months later, and
was that the punk rock band? What was the punk rock band you were? That was your first band that you were in, right?
it was like a punk rocky. Well, no, like the first bands I was in were like the screamy, like I don't like you mom bands, or like
Okay.
when I was like 16. So this is like
Okay.
when I'm like 19.
All
I'm like
right.
19
All right.
years old, about to be turned 20 when I met Blake. I was like in so many different things. I was in alternative bands. I was in like Coldplay-esque bands. Like I was just anything that people were doing, I was involved
Mm-hmm. Okay.
in.
So then you reached back out to Robert, and then he had found the bass player Greg, and so then the four of you guys came together, right?
Well, no, there was another guy who was there
Oh,
before Greg for a couple months, and then that guy ended up wanting to go pursue something else, and we were
okay.
like, you know what, hey, we're all cool with that. We were all friends. But around that time is when I like because Rob had like this other thing he was doing with two of his friends,
Mm.
and then I went and hung out with him one day, and this other guy was there, and he was 6'5" and had his bass up this high up to his neck. And I heard him play, and I was shocked by how, like, I'm like, oh my god, like this is like an actual bass player. Like I'd never met one before.
Why are you saying most people just they just play a couple notes? This guy's is he like slapping it like Flea and stuff, or what? Is just he kept the rhythm?
He did everything. He could do
Okay.
anything.
Okay. Wow.
He could do anything. They when he came to play with us for the first time, Blake, I remember, was like on the fence. Blake was definitely by far the most proficient musician of us back then. And not anything against me and Rob or whatever. We just he just he was just different about it than we were. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
was very much, he had a very like critical thing going into it. Like, okay, let's see if this guy's really this good, you know? And they played Coffee Shop by Red Hot Chili Peppers. But they played it like 3 times as fast.
Wow. That's hard to do.
And yeah, no, he can play that shit like it's nothing. And a good thing about him is that I always thought was great about him is that he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be flashy. He does what he feels in the moment, and that discipline was really great for us as a group because he could lay the foundation. He knew how to play to a song, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's an early period where we were all way too busy and whatever. I think every band goes through that part, but yeah, like he laid the foundation, and without him, you know, I don't think we would have been a very good band.
Yeah. So days before your first gig, you guys are gathered in a restaurant. And you realize, oh, we probably need a name. And so this is a funny
Yeah.
story. You guys actually used an online band generator for help.
Yeah.
And some of the names like Global Death and Intense Resentment, you didn't like that. You were like crying, laughing. It was so terrible. But then Joyous Wolf came up, and you guys all liked it.
I mean, pretty much. There was like, it's been so long now. I think we don't even remember
Yeah.
exactly what the name was. I think if my memory serves right, it was like Silver Wolf,
Oh,
and
okay.
and then like Joyous something.
Oh, so you just put the two together.
Yeah, it was like Silver Wolves, Joyous something, Joyous Wolves, and we're like, we don't like the wolves. We don't want people to think that like it's about the animals or anything. We're like, this is a good name. Joyous Wolf sounds like a name. Cool.
Yeah. No, it's great.
We'll change it later. And then we never did.
That's awesome. No, I love it. And then this is interesting too. So to explain this like pay to play that bands do, and you guys swore off, you said you would not do this because there's this thing that like, I know the Black Moods, they toured with Whitesnake and they had to pay to get on the Whitesnake tour. And you guys said, we're not going to do that. We don't care how long it takes. We don't care if we'd rather do shows for free than to do the pay to play,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we were very much anti that. We had all had experience with that. Blake and I more than the other two, but like especially myself, like I had been doing that since I was 15 years old. And
Wow.
you know, pay to play to me is one of the worst things that's happened to music, because what sucks about it, I mean, is that before in the past, when you wanted to play somewhere, you had to go like show them your stuff and try out.
Sure.
And that's why the music scene was doing well, because you had to be all right. You know, you couldn't, you didn't have to be the greatest thing ever, but you had to be okay. And the thing with pay to play is it means that anyone can play as long as they fork up the cash.
Right.
And that's what killed the live music scene. There was so much garbage that any good nugget was just being suffocated by the onslaught of garbage. And that's nothing against, like, because I was in the garbage bands. I'm not saying I was this great, amazing musician. I definitely was not when I was younger. But I'm saying, that's a problem with pay to play. Pay to play around here is rampant, you know. And down in Orange County, where we're from, there was nowhere to play really at the time. If you were not 21, you know, you could go play in a bar, I guess. And there were some places that would let you go in there and do like a set in the afternoon, you know, to no one for free or whatever. But yeah, when we got together, we're like, we're not fucking doing this. Like, this is stupid. Like, let's do something. Let's do something better. Let's strive for better. You know, that's when we started moving into Hollywood, and that became our home, and you know, all the way up, and just played that 100 million times until.
Yeah, you said you played the Viper Room a lot, and this is interesting. You said you played to half empty or like totally empty shows, but the interesting point was that you said you played with a lot of bad bands, and that makes it hard because the venue will clear out by the time you guys play, and it's also hard to play with good bands because they're so good that they overshadow you. So it's like you're in this kind of like caught between a rock and a hard place.
We had the mentality of, and we take it really seriously. You know, we were like, okay, when we go out there, it doesn't matter who's going to play after us. You know, that was our thinking, and that's our thinking now. You know, we opened for fucking Deep Purple. None of the Deep Purple people. None of the Deep Purple fans wanted to see us. They didn't care about us.
Right.
and it was, it was just like the old days. It's like how it is always. We're like in this, like when we play on festivals, it's like, oh, I'm here to see Stone Temple Pilots play on this stage, and we're playing the stage like earlier in the day before them. It's like, it doesn't matter who the fuck's playing the stage. It doesn't matter who's playing this festival. Like, we need to, like, we're going to be a highlight. That's and that's kind of how our show turned into what it is, into this sort of high octane explosion that it's been for, like, and it, like, that's where that came from. We're just like, okay, we played in LA so much. Again, you play the Whiskey as many times as you can until you can play the Viper Room, and you play the Viper Room as many times as you can until you get that golden opportunity to play the Roxy. And then you play the Roxy enough, you get a paid show at the Roxy. And that was kind of like that's how we came up. That's how we got our chops and, became a decent band. And by the time, we got our agent and played the Winter Festivals for the first time in 2017, when we actually got out into the world a little bit, we were coming off just club gigs. So we had never experienced anything else different.
Yeah.
And
so was the Aftershock Festival, was that kind of your first big break?
No, we played Sonic Boom Festival first.
Okay.
Then we played Louder Than Life the next day. Then we played Rock Allegiance that was going on that year. And then we played Aftershock Festival. So we went on a crazy run. And we had a couple little shows in between and whatever. But, we just had to buy a van. We bought a van. We shoved all of our shit into it. I slept in the leg space in the front, in the passenger seat. I slept in where your legs, you put your legs, because we had no fucking room in there. One guy was sleeping in the driver's seat, the other two, one on the floor in the back, and the other on the only bench that was available. We'd alternate. Someone would get that bench, all of our stuff crammed in there, and, a cooler full of peanut butter and water.
Wow.
We went for it, and,
yeah.
And the next thing we knew, we were talking to Roadrunner, and by, January of that next year, we were signed.
And there was a little bit of competition for you guys, right? But you wanted Roadrunner. That was your first choice?
There was a couple of choices. Roadrunner was just the only place that didn't want to change us. I remember, like, a very important thing at the time was that the guy Dave Rath who signed us, he was the first guy from one of these label dudes to come up to me and say, I really loved this about your band. There were a lot of guys who, they'd come up and they'd compliment me and they'd say, oh, we like the way that you perform and this and that, and we like how you sang. But he was the first guy to talk about the other guys. And that to me was the clear sign. I'm like, this is the place to go, because it's not about me.
It's a band. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, was this the first song that you guys released, was the cover Mississippi Queen, or did you?
It was the first official, like, label release was Mississippi Queen with our song Slow Hand as the B-side.
Yeah. And so you said that you're kind of like, I don't know, it's like, I hear you talking about this, like you're kind of annoyed that you say you don't want to do any more covers.
Well, yeah, because that's like the most schlocky bullshit, like, go fuck yourself kind of shit, like, I mean, if all you're doing is covers and you think, oh, cool, I'm like a real rock band now. If you're, and I'm in that boat, it's like, I'm in this boat that I'm currently talking shit about, where it's like,
yeah,
like, where, we didn't want to do it. We were pretty much told we had to do it.
Huh. By the record company, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not like it was like a direct order, like do this or die, but it was like one of those things to where you want your record out, don't you?
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, are you happy with the way it turned out though? I mean, it's a good version of the song.
I mean, I don't think that the song is bad. I think our cover is probably, in my opinion, the most truthful cover of the song. You look at all these other covers of it and it's people down tuning it, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying when we first made it, I remember they wanted me to, like, add some harmonies and do some stuff. Like, I'm not pissing on the Mona Lisa.
That's
like,
a good
I'm not
analogy.
doing, like, no, if the song was great, it's still great. If you want to, like, that was like my, if we were going to do that, we were going to do it the best we could.
Yeah.
And we did. And people do like it. And I'm happy that it brings people to us, but you know, it doesn't make me any happier when that's the only song people know, and it
Oh,
doesn't make me any happier when when you know that's enough for people. It's like, you know, like, and it's not enough for us, most definitely not, and that's why it's taking us so long to make more new music, is because we're not we're just we're in a period of discovery, and the next thing that we put out, like, it needs to be the best. It needs to be the best new rock music that we could possibly create, you know. And you know, like, you know, I was very happy with the last single that we released. I was happy with Odyssey a lot, you know. And it's just kind of that thing. It's that never-ending war of I don't feel any accomplishment from that cover. I don't feel any positive emotions for that cover,
hmm.
because even performing it live was always a slog, because it's not us. We don't have any joy when we play it, you know.
Okay. What about the song Mother Rebel? I really like that song. It's an interesting, it's got like a pre-Civil War America. You're talking about the North and the South, or I don't know, you
Yeah.
explain it, but you probably explain it better than I can.
Yeah, Mother Rebel is a really cool track. I mean, that track's, you know, it's funny because that was a song that the guys and I originally wanted to have that be the first single from the record, and you know, not everybody was cool with that. And of course, you know, then suddenly it just ended up, you know, the big station here in SoCal, KLOS, picked the song up, you know, bless them. And after that, other stations around the country started picking the song up, and then it ended up on Octane, and it's like, wow. And the cool thing about that is that's one of our older songs. Like,
Hmm.
that's probably the oldest song we have left in our arsenal that we still play.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. So I love the slide guitar on that. Whose idea was that? Blake's idea to do the slide guitar, or was that the
Any
producer?
any guitar stuff, anything is his idea.
He just does what he wants. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah, no one helps us do any of the creative. We do that ourselves.
no, that's really cool. Talk about some of the other themes for the album Place and Time. Is it an album? Would you call it an EP?
It's an EP.
Okay.
It's you know, it's right on the cusp. You know, technically
Yeah.
it is, but you know, it's an EP. We call it an EP.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I got yelled at. So somebody, I forget who I had on. They had like 8 or 9 songs and they said, that's an album. I was like, okay, sorry. Like, so yeah, yours is 7. I was like, ooh, it's on the cusp, but yeah.
I'm not that passionate about.
That's
uh,
good.
Obviously, I'm passionate about, you know, making a career off covers. That's something I'm passionate about.
About not doing it, it sounds like.
Yeah, not do it. Don't do
So
that.
you would never do another cover? You did say that you might do Black Sabbath, Fairies Wear Boots. That'd be kind of
Like,
cool.
that was a long time ago. I mean, we'd play it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, are you talking about playing it live? Yeah, we never want to record it.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah,
know?
that makes sense. I think doing them live is totally cool. That's totally different than
Yeah,
recording it.
I'm not saying we don't like. It's not like we don't like to jam other people's songs. Like, the
Okay.
other day we were jamming. We were doing "Set It Off" by Audio Slave. We were playing
Ooh.
that just for fun, you know. And it's one of those things. Like, but the thing is like, we just don't want to make a career off doing covers. There's so much of that crap now, and
Right.
it's like,
No.
you know, again, this thing that I read forever ago was this. You know, I can't even remember now. It was years ago, and it's stuck with me, and I will hold it in my heart forever. Is this guy saying that rock music is creatively bankrupt? And to me, for the most part, other than a couple of exceptions, that's extremely true. You know, we're tired of the same old shit, you know, and so we're trying our best to infuse as much of our personalities and ourselves into our music to hopefully bring something to it. You know, that's the challenge. You know, you can write as many good songs as you want, songs that are catchy and this and that and the other thing, but if you're not bringing something to it, whether it be a story or a personality or a feeling, then what the fuck is the point?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
like, you know, people talk, oh, Nick, how do you feel about modern rock? And it's like, there are exceptions, but for the most part, I'm extremely unhappy about it. You know, like, Rival Sons are phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
their last record was the best rock record released, in my opinion, in 20 years, and it lost at the Grammys which, you know, was a crime in my opinion, to a guy who's not even a rock artist. So it's like, you know, and alternative radio, you know, they're still playing Nirvana, and nothing wrong with Nirvana. I'm just saying, like, playing you all the newest alternative, and then Nirvana comes on, and it's like, oh, that song's 30 fucking years old.
Yeah, make me
You
feel
know,
old, but you're right.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're not great songs. It's like one of the best bands ever, but I'm saying, like, when it says new alternative, and then
Right.
that song comes on, I'm like, or Weezer or something, it's like,
No, I
you
agree.
know,
That's why I reached out to interview you, because I love the new rock. But you mentioned Rival Sons. I like the Black Moods. I know you're not a big fan of Greta Van Fleet. They're pretty popular.
that's not entirely true. People take shit and they do shit with it. All I've ever said about that is like, it's not something that I put on.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not. And to be honest with you, most new rock I don't put on, because
Really?
my musical appetite is just a little different. You know, I don't listen to a lot of rock music, really. I mean, I do, but it's not the majority of my diet. You know,
Is there any
so
new rock bands that you're listening to besides Rival Sons?
there are a lot of great ones. I mean, like Dirty Honey
Oh
are
yeah, they're
good.
great.
And again, Rival Sons deserves the crown. If anyone's going to give credit to why new rock even has a place, it's because of those guys. They did all the heavy lifting for the younger cats like us and Greta and fucking Dirty Honey and you know, South of Eden and stuff. You know, I like that song by South of Eden, that new band South of Eden.
Yeah.
I know about those guys for a bit, and
They
they
used
got
to have
that
a
song.
different name, because they had a song that was like
It was
a Black Coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that song. They only had the one song, and now they have more, and they changed their name. But yeah, I remember.
Yeah, the song "The Talk" is like, as to me, I think is a solid tune. I dig it a lot.
But you really hate the term throwback, right? You hate that
I
some of
do.
these bands are
Yeah,
being labeled as a throwback.
because it just takes away. It just takes away any momentum, from younger rock groups. Like, you know, because I mean, in the past, again, it's like I always say this, like, um, when Soundgarden came out, no, or literally any rock that follows any generation, they weren't saying this is a throwback of the 60s or a throwback of the 70s or the 80s or whatever. And if you really strip it away, I'm like, you know, you could argue that early Soundgarden sounds like if Robert Plant sang for Black Sabbath. You could argue that. You could say that. It's
Mhm.
stupid to say it, but you could say it, and it's kind of the thing that I'm saying. It's like, I mean, it takes away from the artistic efforts of people trying to put new ideas into rock and roll, because, you know, whenever they market a rock band, oh, put on your leather jacket, show off your tattoos, smoke some cigarettes, you're a bad boy from 1966. Like, okay, hold on. You know, like, me and my guys are completely disenchanted with rock and roll, like whiskey drinker, you know, we all party all night and you know, lock up your daughters. You know, you got to dress a certain way and you got to do all this and that and the other thing. It's like, you know, and it's like, well, Nick, you have long hair. Isn't that like a thing? And I'll be like, I've had long hair since 1999. And the reason why is because Tarzan came out and I was 5 and I was like, hey, you know, and it's a, you know, so that's what I'm saying though, is like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Like, I mean, like the way that I dress on stage, for example, like I literally just don't care. Like, I like to dress colorfully and I like to do things a little different, but, you know, and it's funny how it'll rub people the wrong way. It's amazing how funny that is to me. How people have been like, can't I regret buying a record because you dress like insert horrible thing here, you
Hmm.
know, some of these backwards ass people, you know.
That's interesting. Yeah, because you do a lot of crazy stage moves, and I think that's cool. Like, that makes it more interesting. Did you find that you kind of had to do that at the beginning to kind of get people's attention?
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. That was exactly why. I mean, I started doing like the backflips and the splits and stuff because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to these festivals for the first time. I only get this chance once,
Right.
so I'm going to make sure that whatever I do, people are watching. That was kind of the whole thing. My guys are again, I'm biased as hell, are the best. My guys are the best players. So throw anybody at them,
That's awesome.
they can handle it.
I love your loyalty. You said you were also a fan of Sia. You said you really like her soul, the way she like expresses. I mean, that's unusual influence for a rock singer too.
Sorry, who did you say?
Sia, right? Didn't you say that you really liked her?
Sia.
Yeah.
Sia. I love Sia. Yes, I do. I love voices that express emotion.
Yeah.
I love emotional voices. I love soul. And there's not a lot of soul in, people are like, oh, why don't you like, the indie rock stuff or this or that? I'm like, because there's a lot, most of the time it's so processed and produced to the point where any life or personality that's in it is just
ripped away.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
totally.
gone. It's shaved off, and like when we recorded our latest, like even when we were recording the EP, we had a lot of struggles with the production of the EP because it wasn't done the way that we wanted to do it. When we recorded Odyssey, that was the first time we recorded a song where we did it to tape and we did it live. And you can feel it. There's so much more feeling in that song than in the stuff we did on the EP. We tried our very hardest to give it feel. And I think we accomplished that to a degree, but I'm saying like everything that we record going forward, especially our next single that's going to come out. There will be another one. There'll be more music in the future. I promise.
What is the next single?
Can't
tell me.
Yeah, can't really talk about it yet.
Have you done a lot of writing and recording since? I mean, you guys can't tour, obviously.
A lot of writing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of writing and a lot of like, hey, we got something. Hey, we got something. Hey, we got something. Okay, now we all hate
it. Who does most of the? Do you guys all write, or who does? You write all the lyrics?
We write together.
Write together. Okay.
I do the lyrics and the vocal stuff is me, and sometimes I have little guitar things here and there, but most of the time, we're all in a room together, and we actually were just in Joshua Tree for a week writing. All just locked ourselves into this ranch house with like pigs and stuff on the property and whatever, just to kind of get out of our comfort zone a little bit. And
do you guys take a bunch of like psychedelics and shit while you try to help to inspire you? Or?
No.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not in a rock. I mean, some people. No, I talk to guys who like.
We're boring.
You're boring. Okay. I don't know.
It's so boring. We're playing video games most of the time. That's all we do. We're playing Super Smash Brothers.
Really? That's funny.
And playing. Yeah. I mean, yeah. We're not really into drugs much. We drink though.
Okay.
there was some alcohol for sure, but not like during like work.
Work,
never.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We're not really about that. We like to be clear-minded and.
No, that's good.
Yeah, we're really critical of what we're doing. So by the time when you do see, hey, here comes a new record, I think it'll be safe to say that it'll be good, at least good.
Yeah.
Because we've just been tirelessly unhappy with most. I'm not saying that there's not good things about it. It's just like we're just trying. We're just our biggest critics, and we're like, okay, is this better than what we've done, etc. And that's a big deal,
Yeah, no, definitely. And you said that this is kind of cool. You said that bands should be releasing new music right now because it's kind of hard times, and when you look back on hard times, you remember the songs. That's a really good point. Like when someone dies or you break up, you remember those songs. So people should be releasing songs right now because they're going to look back on this hard time, all the stuff going on, and they're going to remember the songs. So do you write songs about these hard times? Like related to the protests and the pandemic? Just write what you feel. Yeah.
If I want to write a song about, if I want to write a song about the Odyssey, I'm gonna do it. If I want to write a song about my friends being hurt and or you know or I mean I've written so we write songs about everything. I don't know. I'm not really good at that. I'm not really good at describing that. I just whatever the music is, whatever the guys play, it's my job to translate that into words. I think that's how I think about it, and it's almost like I see pictures. You know, when they play, I close my eyes and it's like a little movie, and I write whatever the movie is. You know,
That's cool. Yeah, you're doing a good job. So you guys, you do have a show planned for this summer, Rockfest. Is that still on?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff planned for next year. That's a go. I mean, all the European festivals right now we're booked on. That one, Rockfest, Upheaval Festival, other stuff. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's being booked because, you know, no one really knows how those are going to look around that time. I mean, that's a long ways off. You know, that's like what 6-7 months from now. You know,
yeah, that's crazy.
So all that stuff is booked, and we're all just kind of
yeah, crossing your finger. Would you ever tour with Rival Sons? I mean, since you said you're a fan of them,
oh my god, it would be an honor.
Yeah, and what about you're a fan of Muse, right? Matt Bellamy.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah, you talk about modern rock. I mean, they're still pumping out new stuff that's amazing, in my opinion.
They are just again, what happens when Rage Against the Machine and Queen have a baby?
That's a good analogy. I like that. And then you toured with Fozzy, right? Yeah. So what's your take on, did you see this like spat with Chris Jericho and Sebastian Bach, where Sebastian Bach was saying Chris Jericho lip syncs? I mean, you were on the tour, so what can you comment on that? Or
I haven't. Chris is a consummate performer. He's one of my favorite people I've ever worked with, I've ever met. The guy can sing. And I mean, I don't know, like I'm not that petty, so I can't even like put it into thoughts. I mean, I don't know. There's been plenty of people who say I can't sing for beans, you know.
That you can't sing?
I've said it's happened. You know, people say that people don't like my voice, and that's fine. And
wow.
You know, and that's fine. You know, so it's like to me that argument is that whole situation like that. No, I'm a better singer. No, I am.
It is kind of funny. You know, what's interesting is like when I first, I listened to your music, obviously, and then I saw your picture, and then when I heard your speaking voice, though, the first time when I heard you do an interview, I was like, wait, his voice is so deep. How do you sing so high? Can you sing deep too? Can you sing low?
Yes, I can. I can sing very deep.
Because that's like that's a very hard talent to do.
I can sing, yes, I can. You know, I can go way down here, looking around, look at all the things that you do.
How could anyone say you're a bad singer?
You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I've always had a deep voice.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like you ever heard Brian Johnson from AC/DC talk?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
He talks like this.
That's true.
What's going on now? Yeah. So it's
and like Axl Rose, Axl Rose, like he'll sing low sometimes in some of the songs, and it's like really cool.
And knocking on heaven's door. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So you said in the next few years there's going to be a lot of these up and coming rock bands. Who else haven't you mentioned that I should keep an eye out for?
There's new ones every day. I can't even keep up anymore. I mean, South of Eden, you know, they're with Lava now, and Ehab is I'll call him a bro, a serious brother. I love him. He's a really nice guy, and he and I had more than a couple chats. Cody and Justin, Cody and Kevin from Crownlands, good buddies that I met last year at Impact Festival. Crownlands are awesome.
Crownlands. Okay. I haven't heard of them. I'll have to check that out. See, this is why I got to talk to you.
Check them out. You'll love them.
Okay.
Love them. Of Limbo, of course, my best friends and best brothers down here. Completely underrated group, dude. We need to get them out there in the world more. Of Limbo, check out their stuff, dude. Their first record, Nicotine, and now their new single, Nothing But Now. And I've heard their new record, and I've heard their new stuff that's going to come out, and it's going to blow everybody away. It isn't, that's just another great. There's so much good music, man.
Wait, what was that one you just said besides Crown Lens? What was
Of Limbo?
Of Limbo. Okay.
From Long Beach, California.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, and these three. Another group got, a band called The Warning. There's actually a band that's playing on KLOS right now. They're called Violet Saturn, and they're pretty great. I like them. Other new, again, there's bands all over the country. A band called Oddfellas from Pampa, Texas. They just moved to Austin. They're getting up there. They got a great song called Cold, called Oddfellas. The Rebel from Jersey, my freaking Jersey boys. I love those guys. My God. I'm actually probably going to see them relatively soon, I think. So it'll be cool. Great band. Listen to their stuff, dude. Their record they put out, or EP they put out, is as good as anything.
Wow. I got some homework.
There's a lot of good, stuff. People that I met and stuff and whatever. I'm probably missing somebody, and I'll probably kick myself for that later. Yeah, there's a lot of good new music. A lot of good new rock music. Again, Dirty Honey, and of course, bigger bands like the Struts and Greta.
Oh, yeah.
When I was young, when I was a little younger, there's no stopping my competitive nature. I'll always be competitive. But for me, at this point in time, and this can be your headline for this.
Okay.
People to read. Is I support anyone playing rock music now. Anyone who picks up a guitar, whether it's Post Malone covering Nirvana, that's lower on the totem pole, but or
yeah, that's awesome.
Anyone who picks up, because people don't understand the pressure that you come in with because you were literally, I don't think there's a genre with more pressure in it. Because you're expected to be the next generation of some of the greatest groups of all time. the last great rock generation for me, to my opinion, was, the grunge stuff,
sure,
the 90s alternative stuff, people people who changed the game forever, like Bach and, and of course Nirvana and stuff like that, laid a template out for all sorts of completely different things. And so that to me is a lot, and then everything after that's just kind of a watered down version of that until now. And, I see it very much so, all I want is for rock music to thrive. And I want for more bands to grow. And I want that more than what I want for myself. If nothing happens to Joyous forever, if it means that I can, in the time or whatever menial whatever I have to help promote and push and to show that it's not dead, I will take that 150% to heart. I don't care if it's at any benefit to myself, because I just love rock music, and I just want to see more of it.
That's
I want
awesome.
to see more new. I want to see people do different things with it. I want to see evolution, and I believe that in this next decade there's going to be a lot of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, it's very charitable of you. And speaking of charity, I always end with a charity, and you mentioned St. Jude's Children's Hospital. You wanted to give them a shout out. Have you worked with them before, or you just like the work they do?
I just support them. Man, there's a lot of trouble in the world, and whatever trouble you're having, I guarantee you there's a kid at St. Jude's who's got it a million times worse. So whenever I think of,
that's a good point.
Whenever I think I'm having a bad day, I think about those poor kids who don't get to live normal lives, and who are suffering greatly, and there's nothing worse to me than that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you have a dime, donate to St. Jude's. Go to their website. There's a donation link. You can find it. And we should just attach one here. I think you could probably do that for me, couldn't you?
Yeah, I'll attach. I always attach the links on the podcast notes on YouTube and wherever else you're listening to this. So very cool. Thank you so much, Nick. Good. This was a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what else you guys have in store. Hopefully you'll come and do a show in Arizona. I haven't seen you live yet, so I'd be excited to see you guys live. I know you're supposed to do a tour with Black Moods, but it didn't happen, right? I don't know that.
Yeah, we were supposed to. I mean, obviously, for many reasons.
Yeah, a lot of things haven't happened. So hopefully you'll come and do a show in Arizona. I drive sometimes for concerts too. So yeah, if there's something nearby, I'll make the drive and come see you guys.
No, you'll be most welcome, man.
All right.
As soon as we can get back out there, we will be.
And I'll look forward to new music being released, recording, right, too?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Nick. I appreciate it.
I'll see you later, man. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye. Nick Reese, Joyous Wolf. Listen to them on YouTube, Spotify, or download their music. Follow them on social media for updates. Follow my stuff too, so you don't miss any of these other great episodes. And check out some of the other episodes and interviews that I've done, like the Black Moods or Radio Fix, other great rock bands. I got a whole bunch of other episodes. I'm hoping to have some more of the newer rock bands on, although I love the older stuff too. Thanks again for listening to my little show. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, or subscribe on YouTube. That way you won't miss any future episodes. Have a great rest of your day, and remember, shoot for the moon.